I know that money is always going to be coming to me. Money is always going to be showing up for me. Money's always going to be knocking at my door. My feelings around money have shifted so much to where I can receive $5,000 payments from clients and not feel any insecurity around, am I worth that? Oh my gosh, I have to do all this extra effort and all of this stuff just to feel like it's worth the $5,000. Instead, I have recoded myself so much so that I know that $5,000 is not that much money, right? It's not that much in the grand scheme of things if my current reality is that of someone who receives lots of money all the time. So when your current reality with money is a certain way, you have a different emotional reaction or response to money. You have a different expectation to money. And it's the same thing with our relationships, or in our relationships with men. We have different expectations. We have different assumptions about what's going on in our relationships with men, about what's going on in our money reality. And prosperity. Welcome to Valued and Worthy. My name is Asaya, aka Asaya Mystic. This is the course that I have created for women to transform their reality around money and also around men and our relationship with abundance, resources, and being shown up for in our desires in these two areas of our love life and our financial health, our financial well-being. I've created this course because I, in my own personal life, had to go through and experience relationships that were basically very, very toxic, okay? I know for not just myself, but for a lot of women who are living in the Western world, especially Afro-Indigenous women, have been conditioned in many ways to undervalue ourselves in our relationships and put up with things that any other race of women or class of women wouldn't put up with or wouldn't deal with. And so there's this recoding, this reprogramming and elevation that I've had to go through in my own life from being a young teenager up until now that I am in my late 20s, that I had to learn about my value and how valuable I am in relationship with men, and how to tune into that value within myself in order to begin to attract better men, better quality relationships versus the kinds of relationships that I used to deal with and that I used to put myself through the agony of because of the programming and the beliefs that I had about myself as a woman that I wasn't even consciously aware of. And so it wasn't until I got into the most toxic relationship ever, right? This relationship was not only toxic, but I was dealing with extreme narcissism, right? And within that toxic relationship, I also was pregnant and I had to give birth and also step into motherhood. So there were so many aspects of myself as a woman that I was being called to step into and learn how to fully value, fully own, and respect and honor. And at that time, at that period in my life, it was very, very difficult because there was pretty much nobody around me supporting this level of worthiness, this level of confidence, this level of esteem that I knew I had to step into for my existence. Really wasn't an option. It was almost like if I don't start requiring more from the men in my life, if I don't start asking for more in life in general, and also within my finances, I'm gonna be living a life that I don't want to live. I've decided to create this course for other women who are finding themselves needing that support to really make the full transition into this new reality where they are honored in their relationships, they are supported by the men in their life, and when they do decide to be in relationship with a man, they are choosing men that are going to love and honor them and support them in every way possible, actually in ways that you wouldn't even fathom was possible. This course is here to help you to receive the kind of love, the kind of treatment that your heart desires. And the only way that you can really receive the highest quality of treatment and love in your relationships with men is if you develop this newfound sense of worthiness within yourself. If you develop this newfound sense of worth, I am worth this kind of love, this kind of affection, this kind of provision, all the things that so many of us have signed off in agreement to receiving just so much less than what we're actually worth. Another big reason I decided to create this course is because in that same time frame of me stepping into and realizing that I was accepting very low subpar behavior from men, not embodying my full worth in my relationships, I also could see and pinpoint how this was translating into the way that I was receiving money and the amount of money I was receiving. And my ideas and my beliefs around money, right, were all impacted by not only how worthy I felt that I was, but how valuable I saw that I was. So this is receiving money in relationship to men, right? This is receiving money in relationship to any avenue, really and truly. But it's especially pronounced in our relationship to men because as women, we receive from men. So there's a lot of abundance that we can receive through our partner, but also just our value in general. And whether or not we feel like we're worth being able to have the thing that we really want or have the thing that we know deep down inside that we're meant for. So in my own personal life and experience, I've been met with a lot of challenges around stepping into the receivership of deep and fulfilling love, and also financial security and abundance and overflow. And a lot of it, if not all of it, had to do with what is going on up here. Now, the deep emotional work that comes with when we dive deep into here is a lot of what we're going to be moving through. And then we're also going to be moving through the mentality of it, right? Because sometimes there's not these deep emotional things, but it's just these thought patterns and beliefs that we can just shift. But 9 times out of 10, right, there is a lot of emotions that come with it. So this course is going to be helping the women that enter to understand and truly embrace the truth of who they are, which is wealthy, which is rich, which is abundant, which is living in overflow, which is being abundantly resourced and divinely loved by a man. Okay, so these are going to be all of the things that I have moved through, and the things that I've not only moved through, but I've also learned that I feel like are the most important things to integrate into your life in order to see this abundance flow in order to see this deep, deep love, attraction, fulfillment in our relationship with the man in our life or the men that we come across. So my previous reality with money was very fearful. It was very contracting. It was very sacrificial. I felt like I needed to do things to receive things. I felt a lot of fear around spending money and a lot of stress around receiving a lot of money. Since I was 15 years old, I've been working, right? I was working since I was 15 years old. I had a job at Pizza Hut where I was making $7 an hour. I had then gotten a job, I believe, at Rally's, which is a fast food restaurant in New Orleans, which was the worst work environment I had ever been in my life. And I was also making about $7 an hour. Then when I got to college, I worked as the lunch lady in the cafeteria for $8 an hour for the first 2 years of my college life. And that was a part of my money experience or work experience. And then I moved on to be a waitress, making even less an hour, but then I was making tips. So I really didn't feel like I was making as much or that much more money. And the work environment was also very toxic where I was working. I then left that job and I started working at Smoothie King, another place that's, I think, exclusive to New Orleans. Maybe there's some other Smoothie Kings somewhere in the world. But I worked at Smoothie King and okay, boom, I'm making $9 an hour now. It was more, but I was still not making much and it was just like a little rinky-dink job, right? By that time, I was at least 19. Actually, I had 2 jobs at that time and I was working at Smoothie King and then I started working at Guess, which is like a high-end fashion store. Not that high-end, but it's a fashion store. And I was making, I think, also $9 an hour at Guess. Here I am working these jobs and I was experiencing these fluctuations of like work experiences ranging from like super toxic and like not healthy to really fun and exciting. Like I loved the environment, I loved the people I was around, but the amount was still not enough for me to actually really do anything with my life. By that time, I was continuously repeating, working really hard, but not receiving a lot in return. And that was something that was my reality with money then at that time, was working really hard for it, but not really receiving much. And so then after that, I moved on. And when I decided to move on, I knew that something needed to change. And so this is when I actually began webcam modeling. Okay, so I used to be a webcam model. For those of you who don't know what webcam modeling is, or even if you do have an idea of it, it's basically like being an online stripper. When I started webcam modeling, this is when my reality with money started to really shift a bit. And my mind about it started to shift a bit because this was the first time that I had ever gotten $1,000 in a day. Okay. So my reality with money was shifting. I actually wrote a blog about my experience being a webcam model and what I learned about money. It's also an excerpt in my book if you want to purchase my book, but I will include that in this lesson so you can get a deeper dive into like what really shifted for me during that time and what I realized about money during that time. But this was the time in my life where I really was like, can money come to you like that easily? right? Can money just come in ways that are that easy? So I was a webcam model for a short time on and off, right? It wasn't something that I kept up with, because in my heart, this was at the time that I really started to discover what I really wanted to do with my time and what I really found to be the thing that brings me joy, the thing that makes me feel like this is who I am, this is who I'm meant to be, this is the beauty and the light that's coming from me that I want to share with other people. This is when I was starting to realize that. And that was when I became a Saya mystic. And I stepped into my expertise as an astrologist, as a psychic, as an oracle, as a mystic. And I got to deep dive into all of the esoterics and spirituality and things that I realized about myself that really are me, an essential part of me that I can't run from. After I was webcam modeling, this is when I stepped into a Saya mystic. And this is when I really started to embrace, okay, I can be who I am and make money. I can be who I want to be and receive money. I don't have to perform for someone. I don't have to pretend. I don't have to sacrifice for money. All right. And so then my reality changed around money and what I get to have and what I get to receive. Now, this is where the big intervention from spirit came in, because I was learning how to embrace myself and love myself for who I was in the world. But I hadn't fully learned how to do that in relationships with men. So my hiccup in my manifestation of this next level that I was coming into was this understanding of my value in relationship with men. And this is why I say, as women, it is so important for you to understand your value in relationship with men if you truly want to step into your next level or your highest level of abundance, being wealthy and financially healthy, is in understanding your relationship with men. Because I was still operating from the me that felt like I had to prove my worth to a man, that felt like I had to put up with behavior from men in order to be loved. Like, it was kind of like the same things that I had moved out of when it comes to my receiving money in the world. I had to move out of it in my relationship. So we see here the same things that are kind of repeating, where I feel like I need to sacrifice to be loved. I feel like I need to work hard for love by putting up with things that are not, worthy of me. And then I'm not seeing that I'm not even receiving what I need from the relationship. I'm not receiving my needs aren't being met as a woman. So in the same way I was receiving, $7 an hour, $9 an hour, that just like, it's not enough money, right? It's money, which I was grateful for at the time, but realistically, like, who can live with that? This is what I was realizing also about my relationship with men. These men were, this man, right? I'm saying these men because once I got to that relationship, the most toxic relationship, is because I started to see the breadcrumbs of how all of the other relationships had remnants of this ultimate toxicity. So all the other relationships were like, there was some things that were not healthy, right, here and there, but it wasn't everything together in one. It's basically what being in a relationship with a narcissist looks like. It looks like basically experiencing the highest level of toxicity in a relationship that you can possibly experience, because you're not being nourished in the relationship. In fact, you are being drained. You're being taken from. You're being sapped. And so from this relationship, I became drained, sapped. I had no energy. I barely had energy to create the child that I was creating, which led me to end up becoming very sick in my pregnancy. That was also something that I had to move through and step into my power within, which at this point in my life, I see as an amazing blessing, because going through that experience, I have learned how much a man can disrupt the emotional peace of a woman if we give all of our power away to them to do that. Here's where we're understanding our ultimate value, our ultimate worth. Okay, when we are in relationships with the opposite sex. Okay, so my past relationship with men looked like, as I explained before, all the self-sacrificing, the working hard, the feeling not getting what I needed in return and doing so much. And now it's transformed into being met in my desires, being met in the things that I ask for, the things that I need in a relationship, because I feel worthy of it. There is nothing inside of me that's making me feel like I can't speak, I can't voice what I desire and feel confident in that. I went from dealing with that to receiving deep love and affection, care and adoration from the men that step into my world or step into my life, to receiving life insurance policies, allowances. I went from receiving that kind of treatment to receiving all of the love, care, attention, and affection that I was craving and didn't even know that I was craving from dealing with men that were emotionally unavailable and didn't have the emotional capability to pour into me, right? So now I'm getting to experience this through either male friendships or men that I'm actually dating. I'm receiving gifts in the mail every other week. I'm receiving allowances from men. And this is all because my standards raised. That's it. This is because my standards raised. So I feel like the culmination of this video is really, this is what I'm getting at, is that my standards raised when it comes to what I was willing to receive in money and in my relationships with men, right? My new reality with money as of this day, right, is completely different than what it was before. Even when I was just stepping into a Saya Mystic, there was still a lot of things that I was carrying that I didn't even realize around money, okay? And at this present day, my reality with money is one of freedom, right? I know that money is always going to be coming to me. Money is always going to be showing up for me. Money's always going to be knocking at my door. My feelings around money have shifted so much to where I can receive $5,000 payments from clients and not feel any insecurity around, am I worth that? Oh my gosh, I have to do all this extra effort and all of this stuff just to feel like it's worth the $5,000. Instead, I have recoded myself so much so that I know that $5,000 is not that much money, right? It's not that much in the grand scheme of things. If my current reality is that of a millionaire, if my current reality is that of someone who receives lots of money all the time, okay? Thousands of dollars every day. So when your current reality with money is a certain way, you have a different emotional reaction or response to money. You have a different expectation to money. And it's the same thing with our relationships, or in our relationships with men. We have different expectations. We have different assumptions about what's going on in our relationships with men. about what's going on in our money reality. Okay, this can also apply really to your life in general, in any of your relationships. But in this course, we are honing in on money and men. This is what this course is going to be about. It's going to be about raising our standards and our expectations for what it is that we are worthy of receiving, and recoding how we see our value and how valuable we actually are. This has been your intro video to Valued and Worthy. I'm going to put some links down below in this lesson, and also an exercise for you to start with for this lesson as we move deeper into Module 1, which is going to be all about our inner work around money and our relationships with men, and how we need to focus on being honest with ourselves about how we truly feel and where we are really at with the way that we feel about money and men. The only way that we can get the most out of life is if we are willing to embrace the darkness that is a part of life. A lot of people want to avoid the darkness and just stay in the positivity and be in that energy all the time, but then wonder why their manifestations aren't coming. Well, it's because you actually have to move through the darkness first, and then it creates space for more things to come and new things to replace the old things. So that's what we're going to be doing in Module 1. Thank you so much for joining me in today's video, and I will see you in the next video module for Module 1. Peace.